I'm LG Anulis from the Horse Race Advantage, and today I'm going to be talking about maiden races. It is the second video in a series of videos that we have listed under handicapping. Our first video addressed the conditioning book and how horses are leveled. They find their level starting at the lowest level, which is maiden races, and then work through the conditions all the way up to greater stakes races. Today I'm going to be talking to the maiden races and how we handicap and what kind of factors we actually take a look at when we do handicapping. Most of this information is actually considered in our algorithm and is actually provided through our rankings on our website, horseraceadvantage.com.
Let's take a look at maiden races. Maiden races, as you may remember from our first video on conditioning, the condition book and the condition book index, maiden races are generally at the lower level of our condition book. And so maiden races are for horses that have never won a race. There are two types of maiden races. Maiden special weight. In those type of races, horses cannot be claimed. And then there are maiden claimer races. The maiden claimer races meaning that horses in that particular race can be claimed or purchased or for a particular price or a particular tag. And they can start as low as $4,000. Most tracks have $12,500 and up. It is where race horses actually start their racing career. Some will start at 2 years old and some will start at 3 years old. Some will never start. And the reason for that is because 2 years old, they're fairly young still, and sometimes they get injured or sometimes they're not very mature, and then they're turned out and then have them mature a little bit, and then they return as 3 years old. So the age factor has a lot to do with whether a horse actually races at the end of their 2 years old year or whether they start racing when they're 3 years old. So let's take a look at the age factor here. A horse born in the January-February time frame is generally referred to as an early foal. A horse born in the March-April time frame, that's the general middle of the road. And then if a horse is born in May-June time frame, they are referred to as late foals. Now it's important to note that all horses have the birthday January 1, meaning that a horse becomes 2 years old on January 1, and if he was born in January, then he is exactly 2 years old. On the other hand, if a horse was born in the May-June time frame and January 1 rolls around, he's really only about a year and a half old. And so there's about a 6 months advantage that an early foal has when he first starts his racing career. Horses do not mature until they're 4 or 5 years old, so they're fairly immature when they first start racing or when they're introduced to the racetrack and everything that goes around a racetrack. Races for 2-year-olds are written as early as the May-June time frame. In other words, when an early foal starts racing as a 2-year-old, when May-June time frame, he's already 2.5 years old. Okay, he's not only 2 years old for a late foal who was born in the June time frame. So early foals have an advantage over late foals, which of course diminishes over time. So as he becomes 3 years old and 4 years old, the advantage starts disappearing. So how do we handicap maiden races for 2-year-olds? And the 3-year-olds the early 3-year-olds are also in the same category. So look at the 2-year-old's actual birth date. And then where are we in the calendar? If we're in the calendar in the June time frame and the actual birth date is June, then you know this horse has a 6 months disadvantage. On the other hand, if we're in the calendar in June and the horse's actual birth date is January, then he has an advantage of 6 months. Okay. In the pedigree area, we can take a look at the sire's offspring and see whether his offspring is precocious, meaning that he's producing horses or that can actually race as 2 years old. And the average earning index tells you what type of races his offspring has done well at. Generally, the higher the average earning index, the better the horse. And so if you have a combination of both a precocious horse as 2-year-old and an average earning index, and so if he's in a maiden special weight, then he probably has a higher chance than a horse with a lower average earning index and is not precocious. Because if he's not precocious, then you expect this horse to run as a 3-year-old rather than a 2-year-old. And so what is the propensity for the track surface, the track distance, and the track conditions? So the Tomlinson factors will tell you what the track surface and track distance may be that this horse is going to like. In addition to that, you'd like to look at the conformation. Conformation of a horse is always important because it deals with the physical type of maturity that a horse has and his propensity to actually race. Mental maturity is something that you always like to look for in 2-year-olds, but that's something that does not necessarily come out in the past performance or the information that you can get on the website using this type of information. So what are the trainer stats with first-time starters? You always want to take a look at that. The trainer stats, some trainers are better at first-time starters than others. And then what do the works show? So let's take a look at what you can glean from the information with respect to pedigree. Okay, so here we're at Aqueduct. It's November the 26th, and this particular horse here, Hear the Word, is a brown colt, 2 years old, was born in January. So January, here it's November, it's 11 months into the second year. His sire is Corinthian by Pulpit, and his stud fee was $25,000. Okay, so there's no dollar amount right next to his birth date, and that means that he was a homebred. Okay, let's take a look at the second horse here, Matt and Jess. This is a brown colt born in May. He was purchased for $52,000 at the Fasig-Tipton sale in October of 2010, and we're in November 2011. So they bought him as a yearling and put him into training. His sire was a Fleet Alex, who was by Northern Fleet, and his stud fee was $25,000. So he was purchased for $52,000. Normally you can take a look at the stud fee and see how close the sales price was to see how well the bidding public actually liked this particular horse. Okay, so these are 2-year-olds. The number 3 horse here is a colt that was born in March. Again, this is a homebred, and he was bred by Hardspun and stood for $30,000. Okay, you really can't tell a whole lot other than Hardspun is a good horse. He's been trained by Mott William as a trainer. So let's take a look at the 4th horse. And again, this horse is a 2-year-old chestnut colt born in March. He was purchased in July at the Fasig-Tipton sales, and in July of 2010, again, he was purchased as a yearling, and he was bought for $80,000. Now here, this sire was again in Corinthian, and the stud fee was $25,000, and he was purchased for $80,000. What it generally means is that the more a person is willing to pay for a horse, the better conformation this particular horse has, and the better they saw something in the horse that made them want to buy the horse and pay the extra money for it. Okay, so this tells you a little bit about what the pedigree looks like and what his conformation looks like. Here again, when we look at the 5 horse term loan. This is a colt, a bay colt, born in March. He was purchased in the Ocala Breeders' Sale in April of 2011. Okay, now we're in 2011, which means that this horse was purchased as a 2-year-old, and he was by City Place, who was out of by Stormcat, and City Place stands for $5,000, and this horse was bought for $90,000. Now, what generally happens here is, as a yearling, the price is not generally as high as when they're purchased as a 2-year-old, because there's more training that went into this particular horse. So here in the 4 horse was purchased for $80,000 as a yearling. Here this horse was purchased as a 2-year-old, $90,000. However, now look at the $5,000 here in the pedigree versus the $25,000 here in pedigree. Okay, so let's take a look at the next horse, Camelot. Okay, now here, Camelot, Z Camelot, was purchased at the Keeneland September sale in 2010 as a yearling for $550,000. Now, the sire was Smart Strike, who is by Mr. Prospector, and Smart Strike's stud fee is $75,000. Okay, the fact that this particular owner was willing to pay the $550,000 for this particular horse, that means that either the offspring of Smart Strike has done really well, or this particular horse, as a yearling, had very good conformation and presented himself very well. So this particular horse is a horse that you should pay attention to, because somebody does not pay $550,000 for a horse when the stud fee is $75,000 unless the horse actually showed something. Okay. Now the other thing is, as a September 10 yearling, you really don't know yet what this horse is going to do, and so they are strictly going by his pedigree and what his offspring has been doing, and by his conformation. Okay, so again, let's take a quick look at the next horse, Ventura Bar. It's a yearling that was bought at the Keeneland September sale for $8,000, and his sire was Officer, whose stud fee was $10,000. So here in this particular case, you find something in reverse. You find that this horse actually was purchased for less than the stud fee. Okay, in this case, the horse was bought for a whole lot more, and in this case, it was a whole lot less. Now, if we were to just briefly look at the morning line odds on Ventura Bar, it's 7-2, and this particular one is 6-1. Okay, these odds, and if you look at this horse actually has run several races, while this one is a first-time starter. Okay, so this tells you a little bit about the pedigree part of it. Now, what's the Tomlinson factor? Let's go back to the first horse. Tomlinson factor tells you the propensity of a horse, and in this particular case, the turf is 258, the distance is 332. So the bigger the number, the better the track surface this horse has a liking toward. So in this particular case, this horse supposedly has liking toward the dirt, because this number is bigger. This is the propensity. So this one, the Tomlinson factor, and this one is 342. So if the track is off and it's wet, then his pedigree says that this one he may take a liking to the wet, to the slop. Okay, so if there's no past performance for any of these horses, you can somewhat take a look at this and say, okay, well, this particular horse is 380 for for the dirt, and turf 255, wet 323. So take a look and see which one has the highest dirt propensity. All right. So this tells you a little bit about the pedigree piece of it, and the propensity toward a particular track, and the confirmation based upon the actual dollar amounts that people were willing to pay for. Everybody wants a well-conformed horse, and so the better confirmation the horse has, the better he shows off, the better, the higher the amount is that they are willing to pay for the horse. And that gives you some indication of the type of horse you're looking at. The mental maturity is something that you cannot necessarily find from this. Then, so then what you take a look at is maybe take a quick look at the trainer's stats. Okay, so here in this particular case, let's go back to the first horse again. In this particular case, you find that this Higgins is the trainer, and his in 2011 he had 6 horses that raced, and he had 0 horses in the money. Now the maiden second start here tells you 1, he had 0 money, 0 money, 0 money, 0 money. So he hasn't been really doing very well with first-time starters. Let's take a look at Dominique. Dominique had 187 horses, and he had a win percent of 15%. And then we look at the first-time starters. He had 224 here. For 2-year-olds, he had 1.39. At a mile, 134, and the dirt is 204. So this particular trainer actually looks like, you know, he may be doing very well with first-time starters. And so even though this horse is 15-1, you still like to take a look at it, especially since in this particular case the sire is a Fleet Alex, and his stud fee was $25,000. And as a yearling, they were willing to pay more than the stud fee for $52,000. And of course, in a when the economy is bad, which it was in 2010, paying $52,000, which is more than a stud fee, is an indicator that this horse may be fairly good. Another indicator, when you look at the works here, at Belmont at the 3 furlong, he had a bullet work, 1 out of 10. Okay, so let's take a look here. Wilmot. Wilmot, of course, is one of the leading trainers, and out of 538 times in 2011, he had a 17% in the money. So now when you look at this stats here, maiden and second start, 127 and 154.13%, 1.26. And then, you know, you can also take a look and see, you know, how he does with sprint route, and so, and the dirt and the routes. And so Wilmot is a very good trainer. Okay, so here this is a horse that was bred for $30,000, and it was a homebred, so you really can't tell a whole lot about the price that somebody would have been willing to pay for it, because this was being held. Okay, you do look at the distance here. The propensity was under the Tomlinson factors was 382 and a 359. Again, over here there is a breeze. Now, if you were to compare these breezes here, okay, this is a 5 furlong on the training track, and this horse he came in first. He had a bullet work out of 45 horses. So it is more difficult, in my mind, to actually get a bullet work out when there are more horses training at the same distance. And this was a Belmont. Over here, this horse ran a 3 furlong, and he did a bullet work out of 1 out of 10. And of course, it's a whole lot easier, in my mind, to actually be a bullet workout out of 10 horses versus out of 45 horses. Same thing here. This particular horse did a bullet work 1 out of 5, and it was 3 furlong at the training track. So doing a bullet work at the longer distance and at when there are more horses, in my mind, is better work than some of the other. So these are some of the things that you can find out from looking at the pedigree, the conformation, and the trainer stats and the works. Now let's take a look at the sire itself and how you can determine his propensity if you don't know what the propensity is of his offspring. In this particular case, I'm going to the bloodhorse.com and I'm taking a look at Smart Strike. He was born in 1992, he's 16 hands, and he's by Mr. Prospector out of Classy and Smart, who's by Smarten. He stands at Lane's End, and his stud fee in 2011 was $75,000. Okay, so what you can take a look at here is his offspring. How well is his offspring doing? And so let's see and take a look at what his offspring is doing. So here, Smart Strike's current top performers worldwide are these horses over here. And here there's a 2-year-old filly that was in the stakes, and she won the Grey Goose Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly, Grade 1. Okay, Grade 1 being the high stakes race that you can have. And it was $1,818,000 that she won on 8.5 furlong distance. Okay, and she ran it in 1:46. So here you can see she's a 2-year-old, which is good. That has propensity. So here you have another horse who's a 6-year-old. Another horse, 5-year-olds, 3-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. So this one over here is the only filly really that ran as a 2-year-old and actually made money. And then you can see the broodmare sire and see what its sire is. So Danzig over here, he's done very well with Danzig, crossing with the Danzig, and 5-year 3-year-old. So this is a horse that doesn't show a propensity for early. Okay, you always have exceptions. So this particular case, Miss Aurelia is the exception here. So it's never an absolute. Okay, so let's take a look and see what his average earning index is. Here you can see the pedigree of Smart Strike, and normally the average earning index is shown over here. Now here you can also see what the 2-year-olds have done. So Smart Strike sire had, out of 192 dams of 362 foals, in other words, some of the dams have been bred to him more than once. He has 259 runners, so out of the 362 foals, 259 or 71% actually ran in races, and out of the 259 runners, 71%, 195 actually won races. Okay, what you don't know is what type of races they are and what class and what tracks they ran at. Out of that 259 runners, there were 12 2-year-old winners. I mean, out of 195 winners, there were 12 2-year-old winners. So only 3% of his winning horses actually won at 2 years old. His 2.36 average earning index tells you they were class horses, so they weren't running in cheap races. Okay. This is an index that tells you how it improves the mare if you breed to him. Okay, the leading earner for Smart Strike was Strong Return in Japan, who made $2,345,000. Let's take a quick look at how one would handicap a maiden race here. This is Aqueduct, 1 mile, maiden special weight, 51,000, purse 51,000. For maidens 2 years old, and everybody carries a weight of 120. It is a mile, and the Belmont track starts in the chute over here, and it comes all the way around to here, and then finishes here in the grandstand. Okay, so let's take a quick look here. Here the word is a brown colt, and he ran once on November 29th, Today is November 26th, so it's a month ago. And he ran in the slop. He ran a maiden special weight. And he ran a body rating of 45 and a speed rating of 46. He ran off at 42 and carried 119, and he had Lasix in him. Okay, so now he is staying within the same distance. Okay, it is a mile. It's a mile, and the track is hopefully good. Now the thing over here is that he ran third by 16.5 lengths. Okay. And he also ran against Situational Ethics, who is running again. Situational Ethics ran second. This is shown by the way that he is bolded. Okay, the trainer is 0, like I told you before. So that the jockey over here has a 12% winning rate here, or in the money. Now quickly looking over here at Matt Jess. Here is a first-time starter, and you have no idea what this horse can do, other than looking at his pedigree, like I told you before. And his breezing was September 12th. Today is November. November 19th, he ran a 37. Okay, now he's going to a mile. Okay, and the breezes that he's had is 3 furlongs, 5 furlongs, 5 furlongs, 5 furlongs. Let's see how he did on the 5 furlongs. No, they're just average. So there's no high speed, and a mile is pretty long, so it's going to take this horse is probably not fit enough for the first time to run a mile. Okay. Now the only thing here is when you look at his first time started for the trainer. First time started 224, 139, debut 1 mile 1.34. So you have to look at a trainer here who's done quite well with first-time starters. So the question here is he fit? And so if we take a closer look at this thing here, he from July the 15th, okay, to November, that is 7 from 11 is 4 months he's been training. He's been training at Saratoga here, and then he went to Belmont, okay. At the end of the season here of Saratoga, he went to Belmont. Saratoga is a pretty deep track. But then the first time out in Belmont, he ran a 3 furlong breeze and 36.4. 36.4 is pretty decent here. Okay, so then here is training track, and then he went on the real track. Okay. And here came out of the gate, breezing out of the gate, and so he probably got his gate card over here. Let's take a look at the third horse here really quick. Now this one ran a 6.5 furlong, and he got a 57 buyer rating in a maiden special weight, and his odds when the first time out, he had a 9.7. He ran a speed rating of 83. Okay, he ran 6th by 9.5. The jockey is Lescano, and Lescano's back on him again. Lescano's got a 0.17 or 17% in the money, and so does his trainer bit Bill Mott. And Bill Mott is a very good trainer, like I said before, and he had a good breezing here. So this particular horse with this buyer rating it is much better than this one over here, the first horse. So this one we got to keep in our list here of horses to consider. In the 4 horse, there's no race background, no past performance. This particular trainer, George Weaver, has 14%, and Johnny Velasquez 20%. Okay. Now this horse over here, Corinthian, is a fairly new stallion in 2010, and so he hasn't shown anything yet. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the workouts. 4 furlong from July 17th. He was in Saratoga, and he actually stayed in Saratoga even at the end of the meet, which was the end of September. And he trained all the way to November, and then beginning of November, he's starting to train at Belmont, and he's racing at Belmont today. and he started with 4 furlongs, go back to 3 furlongs, tried him on the turf a little bit, and he tried him on the mud. Now notice here on Saratoga in the mud, 3 furlong training track, he ran a 1.5 and he got a bullet work on the training, on the wet track. Now, so you may want to keep that in mind if the weather is bad today. And so he continues here at Saratoga training track. Training track, by the way, is at Saratoga is pretty deep. So then he goes to 5 furlong, goes up, and he ran a 102. This a 1 out of 2 is also a bullet work, but since there's only 2 horses, it's not really bullet work. So here's a 4 furlong, 5 furlong, training track, 4 furlong, you know. So he hasn't really shown any speed to actually think that this horse can do anything, even though the trainer, with first time started, showed a 180 and a 210. So the trainer, Johnny Velasquez, is a good jockey, as can be seen by this percent. But the fact is that the horse still has to do it, and it's not clear that this horse can actually do it. Okay, so the 5 horse is the same thing here. On September 24th, this horse ran a maiden special weight, and he had a 52 by rating, and he went off at 460. Okay, and Violet, Richard Violet, is a 17% in the money, and Alan Garcia is a 15% in the money. He ran this race in the mud, maiden special weight. He stays at the same level, maiden special weight, but he's going to a longer distance. So the question in this case is, now, can he run the mile that this race is? And there's nothing in here that indicates that he could run longer, especially since the speed ratings for the 5 furlongs is not, the works are not, don't show that. Okay, the only one that may show it here is on 13 November Aqueduct, which is 26 today. It's 2 weeks ago. He ran second out of 16 horse in a 5 furlong. So, but that still is not a mile. Okay, a mile being 8 furlongs. So he has to go 3 more furlongs in order to see if he can do it. So then you can look at the running style over here, and he ran 5th, 3rd, 4th, 5th. So he was going backwards here. And the other thing to look at is, there's a change of jockeys from Ramon Dominguez, who's the leading jockey. He's going to Alan Garcia. Okay. Notice also the equipment. Adds blinkers after chasing a swift pace in the mud first out. The siren never raced, while the dam scored in 3 of 25 starts, earning 66,000. So the dam here was a good dam, a good mare. The Z Gamelot, again, this particular horse, there was a lot of money put on him, and Smart Strike, remember now, Smart Strike is not known for precocious horses, produce precocious horses. Dale Romans is a good trainer. First start, he had 103 and debuted 1 mile 0. So we're at a mile now. So is this horse going to be likely in the money? Not sure. Progeny of Smart Strike, who won a G1 and 337K, they have won first time out 94 out of 666 times. Okay, so that's 1/6, that's about 13-14%. If they're going to bet this horse, it's strictly on the pedigree, which is Smart Strike. And now let's take a look at his works. 4 furlong, 5 furlong. He has a steady dose of works. 18, 25, another week's September, 10, 8 days, 7 days, 11 days. So he's had works on a regular basis, and he's going to 5 furlong, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and then he went to 4 furlong, 4 furlong training track. Okay, and he showed 48.3. He didn't show a whole lot of speed. Okay, so He got his gate card here on September 11 at Belmont. All right, it was 9th out of 16th. Is this horse likely to come in first? Probably not. Okay, Ventura Bar. Now here, he's trained by Kenneth McPeak. Okay, this is a cheaper horse compared to Smart Strike. Except, now take a look here. This horse has been in maiden special weights each time. Okay, so he's staying at the same class level. This horse went from 5.5 furlong on the turf. He had a 43 buy rating, and he went up for 380, and his speed rating was 81. And then he came in second. His running style comes from in the middle of the pack, and then goes forward. Stays in the middle of the pack, middle of the pack, middle of the pack. So his running style is from the middle of the pack. But notice also the speed rating, okay, from 43 to 61 to 74. So he was improving each time. And also notice the distance here. This horse went from 5.5 furlong on the turf, and they didn't like that, so they tried him on the dirt, 5 furlong. And he didn't do very much, so the trainer thought maybe he needs a little more distance. So they went from 5 furlong to 1 mile. And this horse came in second by 3.5 lengths. And so they thought, well, maybe 1 mile, maybe he needs a little more. Okay, so they go to 1 mile and 16th, and the horse came in fourth. And it was a long drive, and you see here, long drive, and gave in. He went off as the favorite because they thought that he may need a little longer race. And he actually went backwards as far as buy ratings are concerned. This was a month later, so now he's going from October 15th to November 26th, which is a little over a month. And the rating that they hope to get is back to this rating here where he ran a mile, which is 74. And also notice that Michael Cruz ran him as a jockey, was a jockey here. And notice there's a change in jockeys to Ramon Dominguez, who's the leading jockey here in the country, actually, and he's a 24. So this particular horse is a horse that most likely will actually win, all right? Even though his pedigree doesn't say that this horse is just a fitter horse right now compared to the other horses. Okay, so this is the way you actually handicap maiden races. First-time starters versus non-first-time starters.
This concludes the video on maiden races and how to handicap maiden races. I provided you an example of how to actually handicap a maiden race, or what kind of factors one should look at when handicapping maiden races. I hope that will enhance your future handicapping and wagering experiences. And so we're looking forward to our next step in this series of videos, which is the allowance races, which is the next step up in the condition book. And so I hope to see you in our next video.